And I'm remembering that after battles, we would be like going to the pub. And I remember the wooden tables. I remember us walking in our clanking armor and everything. And I'm remembering, these little tin mugs. And I'm remembering, we singing raunchy songs, everything. I remember the joy. I remember it. And, because people guarding the various parts of the perimeter of the community, worked in teams or whatever. So, hey, this was my brother. This was... we were best friends, and I don't know the whole backstory. I don't remember all of that, but I remember the fact that, and I had black hair. He had blonde hair. My hair was short and black. His was kind of almost shoulder length blonde hair. I was real wiry and fit, and he was a little bit, chubbier. We were maybe height of maybe like 5'9", 5'10", not real tall, but I remember. And I'm remembering his smile, almost the same smile, even though he was white and I'm white, we're male. But what happened was, now of course we both single men, all of that, but I met this woman and blonde hair. I thought she was beautiful, and I fell in love, and I wanted to marry her. But now we're men, raunchy, just using women, all that kind of stuff. But this was a woman that I thought was special. And when one day he told me, this was right before we were supposed to go for our guard duty. We're supposed to go like at, dusk and guard the opening of the at the wooded area. That was our spot. We were supposed to stand guard. And he told me he slept with her. And I was devastated. I was heartbroken. And I was so angry. I was so hurt. I was so hurt. I didn't show up that night for guard duty. And of course, the invaders came and they ambushed him. And, without me standing there, us doing our back-to-back fight with the swords and defending, the term, I got your back. Well, I didn't have his back. I was not there. And I was sitting and thinking, I was angry. I didn't show up. And then something told me to come as later on that night before the morning came. And I came, and he was on the ground bleeding to death. And I remember crying over his body as the blood is oozing out, the life is oozing out of him. And I felt so ashamed that in my anger, I could not forgive him and allowed him to end up being killed. So after that life, you go through a life review and everything. But after that life, I recall that I wanted to get another opportunity to forgive him. So what was supposed to happen is that we would have a life together and deal with some of those same elements, jealousy, betrayal, all that kind of feeling. And he was to hurt me to give me an opportunity to forgive him. I was allowed to remember that. And that's like cheating in the game, because you're not supposed to remember any of these things. You're not supposed to remember why you're here. You're not supposed to remember any of your past relationships. I was allowed to remember because I was grieving so deeply and in so much sadness. And once the memory of that life and my decision to have us have a close relationship and him do something that was devastating and hurtful so that I could forgive, once I was allowed to remember that, all my anger was gone. So now Parthenia, of course, she she had cancer. And she didn't find out about her cancer until it was in stage 4. And John was her caregiver and nursed her as best he could. But of course, she passed away a few months after Grandma. That's why John couldn't come to the funeral, because he was, taking care of her. And, there's another friend that had died and, all that. So he's had successive close people, but one of his friends that died, and trying to get to that funeral, and then of course Parthenia. But in the course of him taking care of her, he became much more patient and much more compassionate. So sometimes when we choose a life, we even choose how we're going to die, because our death is for the purpose of helping someone else. So I know that between the two of them, that was a karmic thing. For whatever reason, she was to help him evolve and become more compassionate and patient. And also, I know there's a karmic relationship between him and his ex-wife, because his ex-wife, Marami, became good friends with Parthenia, and that helped her get over her anger at John. And she and I are now no longer angry at each other. So Parthenia's role was to kind of help people with karmic negative emotions, such as, his ex-wife and so forth, help him get over his anger, help his ex-wife get over her anger. That red coat that I wore, she gave me that. So she was able to evolve to a state of non-anger about the divorce. And I'm sure they probably have had several lives together. So in these times, a lot of people, all of us, are really having a lot of our karmic relationships come to the surface to resolve. That's what these end times are. Everybody talks about the end times. Well, it's the time for us in this earth cycle for us to resolve karmic issues, pay karmic debts, so to speak. And many people are aware. And there are people who are sharing that information all over the internet. The people who are unaware, it's like they're blind. They don't see it. The stuff they look at on the internet is ignorant stuff. People fighting and people mad, people, doing decadent things. I mean, it's the same internet, but based on where you are spiritually, what you're attuned to is going to be the things that you see, the things that you become aware of, the knowledge that you choose to have. You know where you are based on the information that comes over your phone. It's like algorithms, whatever you look at, you're going to get more of that. Same thing in life. Whatever you focus your attention on, you're going to get more of that. So the people who remember, past lives, the people who remember why they're here, the people who remember their purpose, they're ready to evolve to this next level as Earth changes, as Earth becomes a place where people live in peace. The people who don't remember, there are people who are choosing to hold on to meanness and anger and resentment, and most of all, fear, because fear is what makes you do the things that are unkind. Religious indoctrination can be the worst thing that causes a person to live in fear and condemnation. So I'm grateful that I remember. I also understand that a lot of people do not. I accept people where they are. Everybody is not able to even hear what I'm saying or comprehend it, because that's not where they are in their evolution. They're just not there. I gave your Aunt Barbara the book, Jesus, My Autobiography. And that's the story of Jesus's real life as he sent it through a channeled message to a woman named Tina Louise Spalding. She's the one who channeled the book that I gave you. I gave you that book because its purpose is to undo negative religious programming when it comes to sexual intimacy. That is an energy that draws the spirit of a soul. It is the life force energy. It is the healing energy. And if your teachings and understanding connect that energy with anything debasing, sin, shame, guilt, then how can you attract a highly evolved soul? So the spiritual beings that transmitted that information to Tina Louise Spalding, that became that book, they have been guiding her and her evolution. They've been informing her of her past lives. She was a friend to Jesus in a past life. She wasn't one of the disciples that are noted in the Bible. She was, at that time, a young shepherd boy. And she would just sit around and listen to Jesus and, talk in the fields at night, and he would share ideas. She'd listen. And so basically they made an agreement that in this life, she would be one of the people that would bring back his original teachings. He's not going to be incarnating in a physical body anymore, because, he doesn't need to do that anymore. But he is choosing to correct disinformation about his teachings. And she agreed to be a person who would bring that message. Of course, she didn't know that until she was way grown. And it's a frightening thing. But channeling is basically just using your telepathic communication to people who are not in a physical body. We all do it. We're just not aware of it. So these are not things that are taught in a religious teaching guided by somebody who doesn't have the memory of these things. They can't verify what they don't know themselves. You only know when it's time for you to know. So you may not be ready to know a lot of these things based on the influence of the teachings that you've had, or you may, based on the soul's evolution that you already have. But I'm sharing these things with you because you may have become very judgmental. You may have become very resentful. You may have become very angry. But it's because of lack of knowledge and understanding, and influence by people who don't have wisdom, even though they may love you, even though they may be your friends, even though they may be your relatives. But you are responsible for your spiritual evolution. And so I'm doing as the mother did with the daughter that was an infant or toddler when she realized that she wasn't going to be there to see her daughter reach adulthood, and she started sharing wisdom. This may be a message you have to listen to in parts. But either way, you need to hear it. Because if you are carrying that harsh, judgmental belief system or that version of Islam, you're going to attract to you the energy that you project. And you could easily end up with someone, they might be Muslim, but they might be part of that thinking that is repressive toward women. They shame you. You're very beautiful. They might shame you about your physical beauty, make you feel ugly, the intimate experience that you have together may be horrific, because if they have feelings of shame, guilt, fear, and all of that, repression, then instead of you being expressive in your life force energy, expressive in your femininity, they'll make you feel bad. And they will destroy a part of you that is essential for your spiritual evolution. So that book was designed to undo any negative religious programming in regards to the sexual experience, to the physical experience, to the connection of the mind, body, spirit, so that you understand it's all spirituality. And you remove any judgment of anyone for anything, because people are only expressing the extent of their knowledge. Judgment is one of the lowest vibrations. It will attract negative energy to you. During the COVID crisis, I knew I was immune to COVID because I had eliminated the energy of judgment. I had eliminated fear. I knew I was not on the level, the lower vibration that would allow me to be penetrated by the virus, and I was not. All of the spiritually evolved people got the message not to take the vaccine. I'm not going to ever ask you if you did. If you did, for a job, whatever. If you had to, or whatever you felt you had to, I just hope that the toxins that they injected in people, I just hope they are expelled from your body through your menstrual cycle. I hope that that's how you eliminate that, because I would not want that injection to harm you physically in any way, and in any way harm the child that is waiting to come through you. A highly evolved being is who is waiting to come through you if you choose to select a mate and go through that cycle of motherhood, because the earth is going to be populated by highly evolved spiritual beings coming through highly evolved spiritual beings like yourself. But you can't be following the thought processes and the wisdom of people who are on the level of, let's hide in the trunk of a car. Because not everybody who you associate with has wisdom that you should follow. So you have to have your own discernment. You have to believe in your own prayers. You have to follow your own guidance. I can only tell you these things, but it's always up to you to listen and hear. I don't know when my time may end. There are a lot of things that I hope to get done while I'm here, but I am aware of why I'm here. And because your father kept his promise, I have been able to transcend this physical life and at times leave my body at will and visit the other realm. I'm always in a very high spiritual state during Ramadan. So usually that's a time when your father and I can reconnect in another dimension. I don't talk about it because everybody's not ready to know. They're not on a level where they can know. In that realm, anything you ask about, it instantly appears. So there was one time I had a visitation with your father. And I asked, how's Baina? Khalil and Ghania's and Martina's mother. And instantly she appeared. She was radiant. Her hair was fluffed out and she had this big smile, and I could see that she was back into her whole creative artistic thing. And of course, there's no anger between them at all. All that stuff is gone. On the other side, because you understand the mistakes you made, you understand the errors in thinking that made you hurt each other, there's no resentment. None at all. So they are enjoying life. They are friends again, and whatever other relationship they may choose to have in another life, you know, they are free to do that. And I don't know if that's something I could ever share with Gania and Martina and Khalil. Maybe, maybe not. Martina is choosing to hold on to anger. She's choosing that. And as a result, she's choosing not to experience the positive impact of your personality. You did wonderful things for her children. She's choosing to hold on to resentment of what she believes she was perhaps robbed of. She is choosing to be angry, and she's choosing to not love. She's choosing, therefore, not to receive love. And she's choosing to deprive her children of a loving experience with their wonderful aunt, Zakiyya. And of course, I would gladly be a grandmother figure, but she's choosing to hold on to anger. In September, around her last birthday, about a week after, I brought a birthday card to her house. I physically brought it to her house. And Nadia came to the fence, and, you know, I gave it to her and everything. And I put a $50 bill in it, because I know she's, you know, turning around 50. And, you know, it's a very nice card, with a message in it and everything. I did it to help her in the process of dissolving anger, but she's still probably going to choose to hold on to anger. She doesn't speak to Gania either. I talk to Gania all the time because we're in this health business together. Matter of fact, I think I told you, well, I sent you the link to the show she was on. So, but she doesn't talk to Gania. I don't know if she talks to Mike or she probably doesn't talk to Kevin. But she's choosing. She's choosing to hold on to anger. And that's a choice that you all have. Everyone has a choice to live in negative energy or live in positive energy. And you always experience the consequences of your choice. So if you choose negative energy, then you receive that same energy back. This is why it's important for you to remove judgment, anger, resentment. Yeah, we might go and do the counseling thing. But I tell you, holding on to whether it's repressed anger or passive aggressive behavior, it doesn't help you. And when you do, if you choose to get that life partner in your life, that husband, you can't make a marriage work unless you can talk to each other openly and honestly. You can't hold on to resentment, because ultimately it'll kill you. The inner anger, the energy of anger, that's where cancer develops. So being passive aggressive, that's not something you want to hold on to. It's better to express when you have resentments. Just learn how to use the language in such a way that you can say what you need to say, but definitely say it. It's better to argue and make up than to repress the anger and until it makes you sick, and then one of you leaves and you never resolve it. So that's something you don't want to hold on to. Passive aggressiveness, where you maybe make snide remarks but never really openly say why you're mad. It's unhealthy, unholy, unloving. You don't want to be that kind of person. So at some point, I look to assist Martina in her evolving out of her state of anger, because it's not going to serve her or her children to be that way. But right now, that's where she's choosing to be. The idea that I'm withholding money from them, that's an idea that exists in her mind only. It's not a reality. The book publishing, the publishing of the book When Nations Gather, that required investors, just like the other one. And me, as the surviving spouse and partner in the publishing company, I'm still responsible for repaying investors. So I can do it a bit of a time. I can do it a bit more with this big order from Canada. And I may, just as a symbolic gesture, may distribute some, but it wouldn't be, that publishing company wasn't in the name or wasn't set up to funnel money to Nadia or Martina. It was in honor of Nadia, but financially, there was no connection to the family at all. So if I'm going to do anything in terms of payment to any of the children, I would do something in payment to all the children with the sale of that book, if that is how it's set up to be. But as a company, no one is owed anything other than the owners of the publishing company, which myself, I'm the surviving owner of the publishing company. So legally, that is the case. If I do something altruistically and in order to be encouraging or to be helpful, it wouldn't be because there's a legal obligation. There is none. And I didn't want anybody thinking, oh, she took our money. And no. That isn't a reality at all. That book is one of the books published by Latif Communications Group, or published by the companies that I now run and are the sources of income. But I will set aside something for all of the children of Sultan, just as a gesture, because he did not live to do that. And that's something that he would want done if it's physically possible. And so that is what I would do. So this is the information that I want you to have. Because there are things that you have to still do. And the ending of your last job was simply to open the door for the next chapter in your life. And that next chapter is going to be profound. And you're going to need a good relationship with your mother to get through it. And the people who might have your ear do not have the wisdom for what you're going to experience as part of your life journey. And you're going to need to have compassion and patience and forgiveness, and above all, lack of judgment of people, because you're going to have to interact with people who are in situations that you may not have ever experienced. So in order for you to be your best self, you have to evolve out of any negative belief system, whether it's connected to your religion, your race, your gender, whatever it is. You came to evolve to something higher. And so any misunderstandings need to be removed, especially regarding your mother, because you chose the parent you chose for the mission that you have, because you knew that we could guide you in the direction that you need to go. This is a long video, but if anything were to happen to me within the next whatever time period, I know that I've said what I need to say to help you become who you are becoming and came here to become. So, my friend John Alexander, we're still business partners. And in a lot of ways, I've perhaps helped him through the grieving process. Parthenia, her family's very angry at him because he didn't marry her, and he's grappling with perhaps guilt over that. But that's a choice that he made out of his fear. And now he understands that not being married doesn't stop the pain when someone passes away. He and I can be friends because I understand that I asked for that experience of hurt so that I could forgive him, because the last time he hurt me in a life, I didn't. And he was killed. And I felt bad. So each life that I live teaches me something. And I'm grateful that I was allowed to remember a previous life, which usually the rules don't let you do. But in these times, many people are remembering past lives, and there are many people who are in the business of helping people because they are past life regression therapists and hypnotists. So it's not against the rules. Just like leaving your body is not against the rules. When I first went out of body and met your father, first thing I asked was, am I supposed to be doing this? Is this against the rules? Apparently it is not. So I see things differently. I see life differently because I know there's no death. And I know that I can leave this body at will. And a lot of things that I experience, some things I can share, some things I can't share because not everybody's on the spiritual level where they can understand it. And there are people who might be deeply into their religion that, say things are evil and all of that. A lot of things, these are not things I can really share with my sister Barbara. When I try to introduce Dolores Cannon's teachings to her, she said, "Oh, that crazy lady." So, okay, I know that she's not ready to know things yet, and that's okay. That's where she's at. I love her anyway. But that was definitely a lesson in forgiveness because what she did was so hurtful. It's the worst thing anyone has ever done to me in my life. Create a situation where people question my integrity and my decency and my honor. That's the worst thing. Turn my daughter against me. That's the worst thing. And yet, there's only forgiveness in my heart because I know that she's where she's at because of what she experienced. So I know that everything I've gone through is for my spiritual evolution. Even this challenge with you, because I don't know your state of mind. You have a lot of influences, some of them in the corporate world where you're influenced to look down on people who don't have money or jobs or positions. But you were raised with higher values. That's why I took you with me when we passed out sandwiches to the homeless. Just because a person doesn't have material things doesn't mean they're not a worthy person of respect. You're not judged by your possessions or your title. You are an eternal soul, an expression of God. And so is everyone else on the planet. And that's how they are to be treated. So with this, I pray that you are able to listen to it at some point, maybe in pieces, but at some point, all of it, and reflect. I love you very much, and I am dedicated to doing all that I can to help you become the woman you came here to be, for the work you came here to do. You are beautiful inside and out. And I'm grateful that you're my daughter.